state. From the financial and entertainment epicenter of New York City to the sleeping and empty small cities and towns of upstate, which once bustled with manufacturing, mining, and farming. We all know from inspiration, history, and nature, we deserve a return to the success and growth of generations past, a birthright being squandered by corruption in Albany, and the depredations of an insecure, scheming mountebank posing as governor, who loathes both us and himself. As liberty beckoned to enslaved peoples behind the Iron Curtain via American broadcasts after World War II, we now say, believe, rise, and join us. Welcome to Radio Free New York.
Hey guys, welcome to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister. I'm actually broadcasting from home today because I've had a couple car issues, so we're down to one car. So here we are, and I believe we've got Bob Savage connected from the WYSL studio.
Yo-ho! Hello.
Hey, there we go.
Good. So you're hearing me. That's good. So you got to remember to change the C cells in those electric vehicles.
Oh, I thought it was pixie dust. I thought it ran on pixie dust.
And good intentions, yeah.
Yeah. So here we are, and I want to thank Kevin, who stepped in for me on Friday. I had a family member pass away. The service was down in Erie, Pennsylvania. So Kevin was thankfully able to jump in for me last minute, cover the show, and it sounds like you guys had a good time talking.
Yeah, we went over a lot of ground. It was we got pretty cerebral. I don't know. We lost a lot of people, including myself, I'm afraid. But it was good conversation.
Yeah, awesome, very good. So I've got a note here to let the listeners know. I forgot to mention this before. So if you're looking to catch Radio Free New York, there's a lot of options to listen to the show. You can listen on the WYSL stations, you can listen on Facebook, you can listen on Twitter, you can go to YouTube, you can also watch the previous podcasts on YouTube. But you can also tell your Amazon Alexa, "Hey Alexa, play WYSL." And at 1 p.m. on Mondays and Fridays, your Alexa will play Radio Free New York.
Look at that. Ain't technology great?
Yeah, it's great. So today I'm going to talk about something a little different. Normally I'll talk about things happening in New York State, maybe local to Western New York, touch on some national things. We've been discussing the lake and the flooding and government interaction with that. But this time I want to talk a little bit about libertarianism. And the reason for that is in the last 28 days, my Facebook page has exploded. We've reached, in the last 28 days, 1.8 million people organically. And that's just a huge number. It's up 867%. So with that being said, I think maybe people might be interested in libertarianism. They're clearly becoming interested in a third party. They're becoming interested in other options. And they might not even know what it is they're interested in. They might not know that it's libertarianism. So I wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit. But before we do, I want to cover something else. First and foremost, that this radio episode and probably other ones that you listen to aren't going to be very impactful to you if you're not registered to vote. So step one is, guys, make sure that you are registered to vote, because if you're not registered to vote, there are some things that you can do. It's a short list, but here it is. So if you're not registered to vote and you're listening to the show, what you can do is you can be angry. You can be angry at New York State. You can be angry at the federal government, angry at your local government. So if you're not registered to vote, step one, you can be angry. The next thing you can do if you're not registered to vote is you can fight at family dinners, family gatherings, over Thanksgiving turkey. And you can just fight with family over what's politically right, what's politically wrong, how you think things should be versus how they think things should be. And another thing you can do is you can win arguments on social media. There you go. So those are the benefits. Not being registered to vote, you can be angry, you can ruin family get-togethers, and occasionally you can be right on social media. But if you decide to register to vote, there are some other things you could do. You could still be angry. You can still fight at family gatherings if you want, and you can still win arguments on social media. But you can do some other things like voting. Voting's pretty important. If you're gonna be angry and fight with your family at get-togethers and win arguments on social media, but you're not going to vote, um, you really got to wonder if you're making any sort of difference or impact. And I would say you're probably not. You're probably not winning people over. And if you do win them over, if they're not registered to vote, what good is it? A whole bunch of people believing what you believe, thinking the way you think, but not actually taking action to make change. So I guess what I'm getting at is, if you are not registered to vote, you're going to struggle making a difference. You're going to struggle bringing about impact. Um, if you get registered to vote, obviously the very next step is, and the important thing that I would really, really encourage you to do, would be to actually go out and vote. Because I'll tell you what, when I look at the voter rolls, and I don't know how many of you know this, you can actually go to Board of Elections and you can get a copy of everybody who's registered to vote. You can also get a copy of when they have voted over the last, I think it's 4 years. And what you'll see is our voter turnouts are terrible, absolutely terrible.
Especially the primaries.
Oh yeah, primaries are awful. And you know what's interesting about primaries? I live in the city of Rochester, and sometimes the voter turnout at the primaries is higher than the voter turnout at the general elections. And you might wonder why that is. Well, it's a combination of uneducation on voting, media spreading disinformation, and really people just not understanding that you sometimes vote more than once a year. So I've literally had conversations with people who voted in the primary. So City of Rochester Democratic primary city council race. These people voted in the primary. Then the newspaper said, here are your newly elected city officials. And basically, the media totally ignored the fact that there was a general election coming up. And many people read that, and many people didn't know that just because they voted in the primary didn't mean there wasn't another election, the general election, in November. So it's really interesting, actually really disappointing, because it shows that clearly the education system has failed people, and just the media, the way they phrase things can be confusing enough to people, it actually prevents them from going out to vote.
I
So
think
yeah, our voter turnout is bad.
yeah, in some cases, I think the media doesn't understand the elective process. You get
No, they have no
some of these
clue
reporters
sometimes.
that I've heard abject nonsense on some local news.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. I think it was city newspaper that published back in 2017 after the primary, here's your new elected officials. And then it wasn't until I think 2.5 months later that they published in really, really tiny print on like page 34 or something like that. And they said, oh, pardon us for our mistake. The people who we published as elected officials haven't actually been elected yet. They actually need to be elected in the November general election.
Now, I have to say
So
this: lots of times, the real decision making, for example, when it comes to the school board, the city school board, that the candidates that are really viable are selected as the part of the primary process, and so ultimately they wind up being the ones elected. So
yes,
that's why
well,
it's important.
especially because they usually run unopposed.
Right. And so your votes in the primary are particularly important when it comes to the school board. And, you got to take it under advisement that the school board is as dysfunctional as it is because of the low participation rate. If you insist on better candidates, you're going to get, you're going to get a better school board.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And one of the things that I see that happens very often is this whole idea of partisanship and just single parties running elections. So in the city of Rochester, many times there's only a Democratic candidate, and that's why they get chosen in the primary. And then the general election, it's just their name, nobody else's name, which is just extremely frustrating to me as a city resident. Now, this happens in small towns all across New York, and I'm sure across the country, where sometimes it's not a Democrat candidate, sometimes it's a Republican candidate, and they're running unopposed. And I get some people, they like their elected officials. Don't get me wrong, especially local government can be a lot better than state government. But what you find sometimes is by not running somebody against these people, they get comfortable. And when they get comfortable, they're not as apt to listen to you, and things kind of become, I don't know, government like, slow and inefficient. So, guys, we're going to take a really quick break here on Radio Free New York, and we'll be back in a moment.
Relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
A reminder from Abate Monroe County. American bikers aim toward education. Distracted driving is dangerous, so pull over and eat. Don't try to read your mail and newspaper, and stay off your cell phone. Make a mental note to be more alert, making it a habit to expect the unexpected. Remember to look twice, save a life. Train yourself to watch for motorcycles which are harder to see. Join Abate, and your family will be protected with a free $4,000 accident policy. Ride safe. Ride free, ride often. Abate. If you ride, ride with us. Google Abate, Monroe County.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
You're listening to Radio Free.
All right, we're back here on Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister, broadcasting from home today. And we're talking about libertarianism, talking about what it is, why people might be drawn to it, what sparks the interest. And to be honest, it could be any number of things. So we're just going to talk a little bit about libertarianism. We're going to talk about principles, how people describe it, that sort of thing. But in the first segment, I pushed you guys, get registered to vote if you're not registered to vote. And if you are registered to vote, consider re-registering to the Libertarian Party. I know if Carrie's listening right now, which I didn't check, but if she is listening, she will post in the comments the link to register online or to update your voter registration. And while I'm taking a peek at the comments, I want to welcome a bunch of you to the show. Welcome Yolana, Yvonne, Michael, Dominic, Jacob, Nathan, Louise, and Barbara. Guys, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us here on the show. And of course, those of you listening on the WYSL stations as well, welcome.
By the way, I've got the voter registration information here really quickly if you want.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, New York State DMV. You can go to the DMV, and you'll need your DMV issued driver's license, permit, or non-driver ID. It's got to be your most recently issued document. You need your zip code currently on record for the DMV, and the last 4 digits of your social. And you can register online at dmv.ny.gov. Then you just type in the search box voter registration. Then you can also register by mail. Go to the New York State Board of Elections website and download your voter registration form. And then you can go to your local Board of Elections, and that's also listed on the voter registration webpage. So you can do this all online. You just had to have some ID, and it's really easy.
Yep. There you go. So registering to vote, there's really no excuse, guys. Get out, do it, and then just as important, once you register to vote, actually go out and vote. So you can't vote without registering, but once you're registered, you need to be out there. You need to vote. You need to vote in your primaries and your general elections. You need to check the back of your ballot for referendums that might be there. And you really got to be educated on the issues well in advance. Please don't be one of those voters that says you're going to make up your mind the week before the election, because you might find out that there's a candidate that you really support who has the same ideals as you that you could have been helping, supporting, and sharing the word for over the last 6 months. But instead, if you just wait till the last week to make your decision, you're really selling everything short, and that person might not get elected because they may not have gotten the help they needed.
And you could have been part of that help.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's really important. Being actually a part of the process is just so important to drive change. And in New York, we need a lot of change. So, people ask, what is a libertarian? What do libertarians stand for? What is libertarianism? What does it mean? And many people will respond with a phrase that I was actually shared with the very first time somebody explained libertarianism to me, which is being socially liberal and fiscally conservative. And over the years, although that can be true, I've learned that that's not necessarily the case. It is kind of a clever way to get people interested in exploring, but really what libertarianism means is you can be as liberal as you want to be. You can be as conservative as you want to be. Just don't force your views and your beliefs on me, and definitely don't use government force to push your beliefs on me. That's really the core of libertarianism. It's the idea that everybody has individual rights and everybody's an individual, and they should be able to live their lives as they see fit, as long as they are not forcing their views and their beliefs on you. So if you want to be super conservative and you're not forcing it on your friends and neighbors, and they live a different lifestyle, great, be super conservative. If you want to be really liberal, but you're not forcing it on other people through government or other means, great, be super liberal.
Not going to be super liberal. You need to move to Honduras.
Well, I guess you could do that too.
You need to vote in those elections, because that's the best way to have a better life.
Yeah.
Just take it from me. No, this is not Andrew, folks. This is just me.
Yeah, Bob Savage there, But no, I think that the greatest issue that we have today is not that people have differing opinions. I think differing opinions hold people accountable to their beliefs. I think differing opinions actually enrich culture. And differing opinions really bring out passion, because you see people's passion when they have differing opinions and beliefs. And here's the thing, when you have opposing views, there can be somebody who's right, there can be somebody who's wrong. both people could be wrong and both could be right based on their perspective. So I see opposing views as a really good way to keep people on their toes, enrich culture, and really help you be firm in your beliefs. What I see as a problem is when somebody says, I believe we need social medicine, and then they go on to actually have government enforce socialized medicine on other people. That's where I have an issue with. It's one thing to have a different opinion, to have passionate discussion, to have passionate beliefs. It's another thing to use government as enforce your beliefs on others who don't believe the same as you. And I'm sure Bob would say there's social medicine. You could go somewhere else and check it out if you wanted to, and see how that works out.
Well, I was just kidding with folks before, but no, look, you got to be part of the process, and to be part of the process, you have to understand the issues, and to understand the issues, you got to do the work. I'm sorry, it's not the way it was 25 years ago, folks, where you got the Republicans, you got the Democrats, and you just know what each party stands for, and which so you have this binary choice where, oh yeah, I like the Democrats because they're pretty much in line with my values. It's not that way anymore.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, there's this there's a lot of really great memes on the internet that I should be sharing with you guys right now that show the differences and changes of the Democrat Party and the Republican Party for that matter over the last 25, 30, 40 years and the shift. And what that means. And you're absolutely right. It's pretty hard for people to sit there and look at a political party and say, yeah, I'm subscribed to those values and principles. I'd like to think that the Libertarian Party fits best with most people because our principles are that you can have your beliefs regardless of what they are as long as you don't force other people into them. But you're right. I mean, I meet people constantly who say, yeah, I was this era liberal or this era Republican or this era conservative or this era Democrat, but now I'm this instead. And that could be the exact opposite. They might be a Democrat saying they're a Republican. They might be a Republican saying they're a Democrat. A lot of times they're both saying that now they're libertarian, which is great. But it is very different than it was. It's even really different compared to like when I was in high school, when I graduated in 2007, and here we are in 2019, just 12 years later, and it's very, very different now than it was even then. So it's definitely changing quite a bit.
Yeah, departure point, by the way, you can just stow this in your memory bank. In many respects, the Republicans and the Democrats have merged, especially when it comes to fiscal policy. There's almost nothing to choose between the two of them. Hopefully that will change, but I wouldn't bet on it anytime soon, unless, again, you get involved in the process. And, I mean, Andrew's got a path for you to take here.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, one thing I would say is we're seeing more and more people kind of see this, which is really, really good and very encouraging too. People saying, hey, the real difference between the Democrats and Republicans in terms of, say, let's call it just taxes, right? Is that the Democrats are maybe just a little more honest about them wanting to take your money. And the Republicans, they'll use words like invest, which really just mean your taxpayer dollars, and they'll say they're cutting taxes, but then they increase a tax somewhere else, so it's a wash. Whereas the Democrats will flat out tell you, like, hey, we want another 50% of your income, and then they're still deceitful because they say to give you free stuff. So they're like, we want 50% of your income to give you more free stuff from the government, which is just clearly not how it works.
I don't know if you caught Bernie Sanders last week with his pronouncement that, people would be glad to pay more taxes if it meant that they could have quality health care. And when they left the hospital after their heart treatment, their, whatever it is, they didn't have to pull out their wallet. They'd be happy to pay more in tax. So translation, people would be happy to pay more taxes to get free stuff. I don't think that quite computes somehow.
Yeah, I just think that they don't realize that paying more taxes is paying for that service, which is just extremely straightforward to me, but clearly is not straightforward to what seems to be a growing part of the population. And, Nate on Facebook here actually mentions that a big reason that we have uninformed voters is that anybody in school under Common Core has seen a shift away from social sciences. Social studies is found under the English language arts in New York State's Common Core standards. Um, and it should be made clear how much Albany cares about social sciences. So there you go. Uninformed voters, probably by design. Guys, the music is playing. We're going to take another break here, and we'll be back in a moment on Radio Free New York.
Liberty. AM 1040 Avon, Rochester, FM 92.1 Rochester, FM 95.5 Spencerport, and WYSL1040.com everywhere.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the #182, SimpleTech Innovations.
We'll treat you like family at Mark's Pizzeria. We'll treat you like family at Mark's Pizzeria. Great pizza, fresh and good. Simply the best in your neighborhood. Come in, we'll get to know you. Call you by name. We can bring it to you any time of the day. Mark's Pizzeria. We'll treat you like family at Mark's Pizzeria.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at SimpleTech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, SimpleTech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Radio Free New York on WYSL.
All right, we are back here on Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister, and I got a text message saying I'm coming in a little choppy. So if that's the case, I apologize, guys. It could be the internet connection here at the house connecting in.
Or it could be that lousy computer that you people bought. Don't buy lousy computers. Buy good computers. There's nothing wrong here. It's all your fault.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, get a better computer at home. Hey, by the way, if you need a computer, call SimpleTech Innovations. We'd love to sell you one.
Listen, SimpleTech, not lousy. Great computers.
Yes, exactly.
The computer you're using now, lousy.
There you go. So, we're talking about libertarianism. What does this exactly mean? Why are people being drawn to it? I can already tell based on where I am in my notes of the things I want to talk about. There's no way we're going to cover all of this today. But I want to give you guys some ideas of what government should look like under libertarianism. Now, there are some people who say, oh, I thought libertarians see no role for government and no regulations and no taxes. And that's actually not true. In a libertarian mindset, there is a place for government. It's just a small, limited government whose role is to protect your rights, not regulate your life. Many libertarians would say that most taxes that we have today are not right taxes. We shouldn't have them. The only tax that you'll see most libertarians support is probably going to be a sales tax. Things like income tax and property tax, a lot of libertarians don't support those. They don't believe that it was the intent of the founding fathers, and they don't believe it's right. But here's some other things that maybe don't get talked about a whole lot that do fall in line with the libertarian philosophy, what we believe. And this is really stuff I believe personally. So somebody might come on here, send a message saying, oh, libertarianism, we believe this instead. You're wrong, Andrew. Okay, maybe. But this is libertarianism to me. This is why I believe and what I share with people. So, one of the things that I really don't believe is the role of government at all is to prevent people from doing stupid things in their own life. So, that doesn't mean preventing people from harming others, because one of the biggest principles of libertarianism is really to do no harm to anybody, to not use force against them. So I'm not talking about preventing people from doing bad things to other people. I'm talking about government stepping in and telling you they know what's best for you in your body, regardless of impact on others. So I'll give you like a couple really brief examples of this. This first one might actually be a bad example because I know people get upset about this. But one is forcing people to wear motorcycle helmets. Um, me personally, I ride a motorcycle. I wear a helmet. I will probably always forever wear a helmet. I think that's right for me. It shouldn't be government's job to make somebody who feels differently, who feels that they have the experience in riding, um, maybe they believe for personal reasons that wearing a helmet while riding is inappropriate. Why is government making those people criminals for what they want to do with their life, their body, and their property? They shouldn't. It's plain and simple. Now, as telling somebody that if you're riding a motorcycle with a child, or even just a regular bicycle with a child, that child needs to have protective gear on, I support, because you as an adult are taking custody of the safety of that child who can't make those decisions for themselves. And by you not providing that to that child, you could potentially harm that child, put that child in harm's way. So that's where the difference is. The difference is, this idea that you should be able to be free to make your decisions, but you shouldn't be making decisions that could harm another person. Another example of this would be firearm ownership. The SAFE Act. The SAFE Act makes common weapons are common in other states across the country a felony to own here in New York State. That's not the role of government. Whether you feel one way or another about firearms is totally irrelevant. Even if you took the Second Amendment out of this, it's totally irrelevant in terms of what government is supposed to be doing. Government should not be governing what you can and cannot own as long as you are not using that to harm another individual, to take away their life, their property, that sort of thing. So it's not just an infringement on the Second Amendment. It's outside the scope of what I believe government was ever meant to do. Another example is zoning laws. So zoning laws, many of them infringe on your right to own the property that you've purchased. These zoning laws are designed to really make it so that you have to just pay the government for use of your property. You need a permit for a fence. Your deck can only be so high, this sort of stuff. And a lot of times to have a variance or something that changes that requirement, you have to pay government for. Well, that's going to be something that we totally oppose because it has no bearing on the people around you. Now, if you wanted to put in a 50-foot tall windmill on your property that's going to cast shadow and noise on your neighbor and disrupt their way of life, disrupt their peace on their property, then that to me is a situation where a zoning law would be appropriate. But once again, limited.
Yeah, by the way,
protecting somebody's rights.
Yeah, part of this zoning process too, and you want to give you a heads up on this. Every community, every few years, goes through a thing called revision of their comprehensive plan. And the comprehensive plan is the plan that the planners use to plan how they're going to control you and the use of your land. So you want to pay close attention to this because there's a lot of cockamamie ideas that come out of these comprehensive plans. And these are all the restrictions that Andrew's talking about that regulate whether or not you can have a swimming pool on your property, whether you can build a garage, whether you can do almost anything with your property without having the proper permits and having a bunch of bureaucrats, fortunately locally elected ones, by the way, to give your property and your project the fisheye. But some of these things are really intrusive, and you need to go to your, I hate to tell you this, you need to go to your town board meetings, you need to participate and ask a lot of discomforting questions about these comprehensive plans because, see, what government does is they go out and they hire some consultant engineering firm. And you know what, Andrew, what my definition of a consultant is, that's somebody who uses your watch to tell you what time it is and then walks away with it. Well, same deal with the consultants that generate these comprehensive plans, except they don't walk away with government's watch. They walk away with yours because you're paying $50,000, $70,000 for these dopey studies. So just a word to the wise.
Yeah, and usually, to be honest, I mean, these people they get hired in are usually their buddies. At least in the case of New York, you see that your government officials hire some firm. You find out later that firm made a contribution to their campaign.
No question.
Or they're related or something like that. So we shell out all this taxpayer money, which comes out of your pocket, to fluff up and cushion up the elected official's buddy.
Most of these small towns around the Rochester region, they all use the same politically connected engineering firm for these comprehensive plans. It's always the same firm.
Yeah, there you go. So what are other things that I believe is a part of libertarianism? This one might sound like common sense, but clearly that's not the path we're following. And that is that monopoly is bad, right? So a lot of people say, yeah, monopoly's bad. I totally oppose it. Yet they're okay with government having monopoly over services and regulations. So
government's the ultimate monopoly, really.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the government is the monopoly. And it's funny because they have a monopoly on breaking up other monopolies. It's really interesting. So let's talk about the difference between regulations and standards. Regulations is basically forced guidelines, whereas standards, you could have multiple organizations have standards, and you could choose to purchase the product or service that matches the standards that you want. So let's look at something like Social Security, which we're going to talk about during one of our future shows. This idea that you lose a percentage of your paycheck, it's totally forced. You have no option, no say in it whatsoever. You may or may not be able to ever collect it if you pass away beforehand. All of this stuff. You have no choice in how it's invested, having options and choosing what your return might be. Just a forced government regulation. If we switch to standards, then you would have choice. You could choose to continue to use Social Security, but maybe you'd choose a private sector standard instead. Maybe, some investment group, they would come up with their own retirement standard. And you could choose to work with companies and organizations that follow that standard. And that standard might be a 401k plan coupled with a simple IRA. It may be a Roth IRA coupled with a simple, like that. And that could be the standard that you could follow for retirement. And you could technically then, in that case, with standards instead of regulations, say, no, I'm going to opt out of Social Security. I don't think they're managing my money well. I don't think they're ever actually going to pay me by the time I'm supposed to get there. And maybe they can't keep up with inflation. But this standard over here, this retirement capital, whatever group standard, I like that. I like the way they're thinking. I'm going to go with that instead. You could do the same thing with health insurance. Right now, government has a monopoly on the regulations for health insurance. And as a result, my health insurance covers stuff for body parts I don't even have. It covers things for birth control. I can't use birth control. So, same thing, guys. Standards instead of regulations. That's the libertarian way. We're going to take another break here on Radio Free New York. We'll be back in a moment.
Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovation should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
I'm Las from Action Towing and Service. The people really make this place incredible. I feel at home. I love what I do. I love the people that I work with. The owner of the business is actively involved. He is a veteran. We have a very close relationship with all of the staff. Every employee there is known by name, and we really, really work hard on giving that home feel or the family feel. Please give us an opportunity to win your business. Come down and visit us at 275 Marketplace Drive, right off of Jefferson Road.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, from the Libertarian Counterculture Bunker, broadcasting remotely, here's Andrew Hollister.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. So what we're talking about libertarianism, just giving people a little bit of information about it, because there's been a huge explosion on my Facebook page. We're up 867% with reach, and that's all organic. That's people just sharing the material, interacting with it, commenting, tagging their friends. And I thought it was important to just discuss libertarianism, what it means to me, how I see it, and how it can impact your life. So with this, where we're leaving off, we're talking about the idea of standards versus regulations. The idea that regulations are nothing more than government monopoly. And if you switch to a system of standards, which has been proven to be successful in the private sector, I could give you numerous examples, such as health food stores, various organic standards. Whether you agree with them or not is a different situation, but that's the whole point of a standard. If you disagree with how somebody achieves a certain organic certification, you don't buy the product with that organic certification. You buy somebody else's organic stamp or somebody else's certification for something else for a product that's important to you. So, this is what we're talking about, the idea of eliminating monopoly on regulation and switching to standards, because standards compete with each other. Competition is good. Competition makes people work harder to produce something better. And I'll tell you what, sometimes people say competition is not good because when there's competition, there's a loser. Well, here's the thing, I'm okay with a standard that's not good not being successful. I want the best standards to win. I want the standard that gives me the best possible retirement, the best possible health care, not health insurance, health care, which are very different things. Um, yeah, I want competing standards. I want the standards that aren't good to lose so that we can have better care, better services, and not be forced to purchase things from the government. And that's really the next topic that I want to hit is, as a libertarian, I do not believe that government should mandate what I need to purchase in life. I don't believe government should be telling me that I have to purchase health insurance. Health insurance is not the same thing as health care. They've basically said I must now go into the private market and purchase a product from a private entity by government mandate. That's wrong. What if I want to be cash pay? What if I want to have a personal relationship with my doctor where he does something like the Costco model, where I pay into a subscription and they provide me health care for that? Government shouldn't be mandating what I need to purchase. You could even go as far as to say something like vehicle inspections. This is something that government has a monopoly on. They mandate that you do it every year. Well, if we changed this regulation into having standards, you could have multiple different vehicle inspections. You could still do it annually if you wanted to, um, but now it's not government having monopoly. Instead, you could choose, the AAA standard, and maybe they check more than just your brakes and your taillights. They check some other things, and maybe you've got the I don't know, the Midas standard, and they check other things too. And you have competing standards, and you can choose which standards you follow. And then when you go to trade in your vehicle, you go to sell your vehicle, whatever you do, or just ride around in your vehicle, if somebody looks at your vehicle and goes, oh, you're using the AAA standard for your inspection, okay, that's like pretty top-notch stuff, versus the car next to it, they go, oh, that's using the New York State standard. They missed a whole lot of stuff. That may or may not actually be a roadworthy vehicle.
Yeah,
Now you have options.
yeah, maybe it affects your insurance rate. If you have,
Yeah,
if you have a
well could.
higher tiered inspection standard, your insurance is cheaper.
Yeah, and the resale value of your car might be more. The trade-in value of your car might be more. I mean, if we did this, Toyota, Ford, GM, they would all come out with their own standards, and they would use that for their certified pre-owned purchases and sales. They might include some maintenance in the standards, and you can actually increase the resale value of your property by actually having competing standards in the market. So just another reason that government monopoly on regulations is bad, why standards are good, why they could work, how they could work. I'm not saying it would work exactly that way, but that's a way it could work. It's a way it's working already in health food stores. So let's replicate successful models and eliminate just archaic government monopoly. If we do that, we can live in a much better place, a much freer place on top of that. So you're going to see some libertarian candidates on the ballot this year. What can you expect from those candidates? What should you expect from those candidates? And if they're not doing this, what should you be pushing them for? Well, the first thing I'd like to say is you should expect to see a change in language. A candidate who's endorsed by the Libertarian Party is hopefully never going to use the term government money. They're going to call it taxpayer money. They're going to call it what it is. They're going to say things are taxpayer funded. They're not going to use words like investing, hopefully. They're going to talk about increased tax dollars. And you're not going to hear free. You're going to hear paid for by the taxpayer, taxpayers' money. You know, these subtle differences in language make a huge difference in intent and understanding of what's really going on. You got somebody running around talking about investing in government services, investing in government programs. That's just their way of trying to cloak the fact that they're going to take money out of your pocket to put it into something that you may or may not support. Other things you're going to see a fight to bring government more local. Now, in some cases, you know, this might be fighting unfunded mandates and trying to get unfunded mandates out of Albany so that you can make decisions on your town level and on your county level. In other situations, that might be fighting for more transparency, trying to get more things on the back of your ballot instead of having a town council or a county legislature make the decision for you, instead giving you the option. Something I would love to see in the city of Rochester is actually getting the school budget being voted on by the residents. That happens in, I think, all of the suburbs around us. But the city of Rochester, we don't get to vote on our budget. And you see that our budget is terribly mismanaged. You see we fail like every audit of our budget. There's some transparency issues there. There's some accountability issues there. And that's another thing you'll see libertarian candidates fight for. Actual accountability. Not just having boards and commissions where there's no accountability. Having somebody actually in charge, somebody actually on the hook, typically an elected official, not some appointee. That's what I want to see, and that's what libertarian candidates should be pushing for, is accountability within government. And then another big one, this is a change in language, but it is a huge change in language because it makes a big difference in what's meant. The idea of pushing for cutting spending instead of lowering taxes, or instead of cutting taxes, because lower taxes are the byproduct of cutting spending. But there is no way, I repeat, no way that you cut taxes without first cutting spending. Now, you could say, oh, what about your and Larry's idea of funding the roads by doing sponsorships, that sort of thing. You could raise tax revenue there, absolutely. So that could maybe be a way to lower taxes without cutting spending. But guess what? With inflation and everything else, you have to cut spending. It's out of control. We spend so much more than any other state in the nation per person. We can't fix it. It's unsustainable. You have to cut spending, then cutting taxes or lowering taxes is a byproduct of cutting spending. And just outside of the box ideas, like the idea of allowing people to sponsor roadways, something we talked about with some local candidates already, allowing some companies like Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile to sponsor a park, and they actually cover the costs of operating that park. That's a way to cut spending. The idea of doing the same thing with libraries, allowing somebody to sponsor the computer lab in the library, which some libraries are already doing, and some schools are even doing. But the idea of doing this at a larger scale, and instead of taking that tax money freed up and spending it on another project, actually cutting the spending so that you can lower taxes. So guys, here we are. We're at the end of Radio Free New York. I hope you found this educational. I will catch you guys on Monday. Have a good day.